Thanks to Blinkist for supporting the Productivity Show. Blinkist condenses the best key takeaways from thousands of nonfiction books down to just 15 minutes. Try Blinkist free for 7 days and save 25% on your new subscription at Blinkist.com/TPS. Welcome to the Productivity Show, podcast by Asian Efficiency to help you maximize your productivity so you can get all the important things done without having to sacrifice your health, family, and things that matter to you. We've helped tens of thousands of people save time, be happier, and become more productive. Today, I'm joined by Joe Fier. He's the co-host of the podcast Hustle and Flowchart, where they interview successful entrepreneurs and go deep about their unique business strategies. He's also the co-founder of Evergreen Profits, where he helps people start and grow online businesses. In this episode, we talk about how to incorporate more fun in your day to stay productive, how Joe implements sprints in his personal life to get stuff done, how he and his wife raise a 9-month-old kid while working from home, and the importance of slowing down during this crazy time that we're in. You can find links to everything that we share in the show notes by going to theproductivityshow.com/332. And now, on with the show. I'm here with my man, Joe. How are you today, Joe?
Doing great, man. I've been looking forward to being on here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so excited for you to be here as well, because we are going to be chatting about how you get stuff done, how you're productive at home. And one of the things we always like to do when we have guests on is just kind of like reverse engineer how they think about stuff, how you do things. And before I sort of give you the floor and have you share some of your best tips and ideas and workflows, one of the things we always like to do at the start of an episode is kind of have the guests share their top 3 favorite productivity resources. So can you maybe share in 90 seconds or less what you have in store for us here?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So a couple of apps are like my go-tos all the time. So I use Brain FM pretty much all the time when I'm working or reading. So it's great for kind of just getting, you can choose the focus mode, or I use it for sleep as well at night, just so it gives you a little background sound, but they have the science worked into it. Now you can look it up, but Brain FM is amazing for just kind of getting into that flow state. And another one I use is another app called XPT Life. It's done by Laird Hamilton. He's a big wave surfer in Hawaii and does all these breathing exercises. So it's more of like a physical thing. I use a lot of breathing exercises in there. So I recommend that, kind of getting your head in the right spot for getting into flow and being productive. And then the other one would be kind of a classic book, Getting Things Done by David Allen. I think that process is just like a great foundation that you can kind of mold into your own systems and style. And that's how I've done it. I was resistant to it for a while, but I made it my own and it feels a lot better now. So those are my top 3.
Awesome. So we'll make sure to have links to all of that here in the show notes. So Joe, for those who don't know who you are, can you maybe share a little bit about you, your story, and what you're up to?
For sure. Yeah. So I am Joe Fier and I live in San Diego. I'm an entrepreneur. So I've been an entrepreneur for about 13 years, working for myself, mainly in a home office, which is awesome. Probably 95 or 7% of the time it's up there. And I have a business partner named Matt Wolf. We run a company called Evergreen Profits. So with that, we have a podcast as well called Hustle and Flowchart, where essentially those things are kind of combined. One's the business, one's more the front-facing podcast, kind of like how you have things set up here. And we speak to interesting entrepreneurs, business owners, marketers, and bring out their mental models, the way they think, how these cool strategies that other entrepreneurs can use. And we just have great conversations. And I feel like we just meet interesting people and we share the best stuff with the world. So that's kind of our mission. And we make money other ways, selling mainly through affiliate marketing. So that's basically selling other people's products. We're almost like sales reps, but through content online. So that's kind of our thing.
I know we have a lot of salespeople always listening to our show, and entrepreneurs, and a lot of people in corporate America as well who want to have like a side hustle or like a passion project on the side. And you guys have great content around that. And I definitely would encourage everyone who's listening, if you're interested in that topic, to definitely check them out. So one of the things I always like to do with our guests is kind of like reverse engineer how they do things, how they're staying productive, how they're getting stuff done, especially since you've been working from home for so many years. I'm sure you have some tips and tricks that I don't even know about. So I would love to kind of start diving into some of that material. But can you
Yeah.
maybe start off by just sharing, like, what does a typical work day or work week look like for you?
Yeah, I like most people, I primarily work during the weekdays, but I'm slowly shifting that in my mind and breaking the 9 to 5 thinking a little bit, just because I have the ability to, and most of us do now that we're working from home or in remote places. We have a little bit more flexibility than just like the system that we kind of have that society gave us. At least that's how it shows up for us. So yeah, my typical workday starts around 10 o'clock. Right before all that, that's my family time. That's my breathing time using these apps, kind of getting my head straight. I do some workouts. So it's all about kind of getting my mind and body in the right place. So because working at home, yeah, it's not the easiest thing. And now I have a 9-month-old in the house too. So it's even a little bit more difficult. There's a new layer now. So I think that prep work before work time at 10-ish is crucial for me. So I kind of work in sprints. And so I don't work like just grueling out, 8, 9 hours or whatever it is during the day. I'll kind of go in bursts. So maybe an hour here, 2 here, 30 minutes here. And I try to knock out the most important tasks of the day, the one that's probably going to linger in my mind. So it's always a hard, pill to swallow, but typically that's, maybe some article for like an hour where I just have to intently focus. So if I can get that done, usually is the number one task, then my whole day is like a win after that, and it kind of snowballs. So I try to wrap up by about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, ideally sooner. But in my days, I'm always scheduling fun time. So I'm trying to think of things outside of work. I'm trying to actually, and this is, I say trying because this is actually a work in progress. This is a newer addition, is prioritizing my fun. So the non-work stuff over the work activities, just because it gives me a little bit more of a container to do all of my core work in, because I can easily work throughout the night if I wanted to, because God knows I have enough. The to-do list goes on forever, and the people, on our podcast, I can do all the fun in the world, but I got to contain myself somehow. So that's how I do it.
I also find that if you schedule your fun activities or the fun things in life, then you have something to look forward to almost, and it makes you actually want to work a little bit harder to get it done before the activity actually starts. Do you find that too?
100%. And that is my motivation. So I'm one, I just love to go outside. I like to be outside in the sun. I like to move my body. Now I have a baby here, so I love to spend time with my family. Yeah, definitely. So that was actually my thing, is I lost fun in my work in a while. Like for a while, I got a little bit too consumed in trying to move things forward in business and just helping people, because I like to connect a lot of folks. I'm kind of like a connector is what I've done, and I could just do that all day. It's fun for me, but then I lost track of my hobbies and things like that. So now that I've prioritized those, it just makes everything more fun. And yeah, I get my work stuff done way faster too. It's a lot more fulfilling.
So what was life different, and how was it when you had no kid versus having a kid now? Because I know a lot of people who are listening to the show, they have young children and they find it so challenging to not get stuff done, to focus, especially now that most of us are now working from home. We have to, kind of figure out like, how do we balance this? Any insights or tips or tricks there?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because prior to our biological kid, we actually fostered 7 kids and kind of throughout, in and out of the house. So we kind of have had kids prepping me for a while here. So I got to go back in time. Before kids, definitely I was a lot more spontaneous, I will say. So my wife and I have a similar spontaneity quality, I guess, where we'll just, oh, let's go drive to the beach, an hour away or so, and work at a coffee shop. And then we would kind of do that a lot more and have I would say, a much looser day with our work. And I think that was probably more the fun factor. Like I would be like, oh, I'm looking forward to going to the beach today. I'll be working for a little bit, but I'm going to walk around, I'm going to go to a new coffee shop, experience new places. With the kid, it's you got to figure out that piece. I think that can quickly go away quickly without realizing. once you have a dependent now, and there's a constant screaming in the background, or there's messes, and it's just not organized like it was. So I would find a balance, and you want to definitely prioritize your family, but definitely prioritize your fun and really your mental state. I would say you can quickly get a little more rigid, I think, and not in a good way. When you have an added stressor and layer and complications and things like that. So I would try to schedule some fun, like ASAP, when there's a new kid in the house, and involve your family too, of course, if you can.
Yeah, I think there's something about just the theme here that we've kind of discovered here is just scheduling your fun and scheduling fun things to do. I think oftentimes most of us who are listening, they can be overachievers, they can work a lot, they can be workaholics. And then one of the things that I always find very telling about a person is if they have hobbies or not. Because if someone doesn't have hobbies, the only other thing they could be really doing is working all the time. Right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing bad necessarily, I think, about working all the time, especially if you are starting a business or growing a business. Like there's a time and place for that too. But I think if we want to be sustainable over the long term and also be fulfilled, then having hobbies and doing things outside of work is so important. And I loved the fact that you really emphasized that here.
Yeah, thank you.
So is there anything else about like your particular day or things that you do differently that you think, you know what, everyone should be doing this if they want to be more productive?
So the working in sprints thing, I don't think a lot of folks test or try. And I think it was Naval Ravikant said something in his tweet storms. He had all these things going on like last year, but he said something how, it's essentially we're animals. I mean, it's just like a cheetah. They're not going to go sprint for 30 miles or a marathon, 26 miles chasing something, or they're going to sprint and then take a nap, because they probably got their prey or whatever they were trying to do, but they're going to rest and then they're going to do it again. And we're animals, we're not robots. We're not made to just endure 8 hours straight or 9 hours. So I would say that sprint mentality is always in my head. And I like to kind of throughout my day, mix it up a little bit. I don't like to be in one singular spot all the time. I like to kind of be mobile. So if I know I have a lot of emails or I need to kind of organize some things, I'll probably be better doing that on a smaller screen or a cell phone outside. So it's kind of like a location thing. It's this, all the subconscious stuff I feel like is really strong with me. So it's like a location thing is big. That's why I like to go to coffee shops when I was able to and on lockdown. It's just like this weird environmental thing. That's why I like to go outside, get the sun. A smaller screen contains the windows on my screen as well. So it's like a singular focus. All these little things in sprints, that's another container as well. That works really well for me. And I think it works well, especially working at home as well. Because, now I'm on dad duty sometimes throughout the days at unexpected times. So if I can sprint as much during the times where I know she's napping or she's not home, that's where I like to do my best work or how I do it.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, the way you sort of approach sprints is the idea that, okay, if you have a particular day in front of you and you have a to-do list, you don't necessarily schedule things of how you want to do it, but hey, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go maybe to a different location, focus on this, get it done, and then take a break. And then before you move on to the next thing, you want to know, okay, I have this thing that I need to get done. You focus intensely for a little bit, and then you back off a little bit. Is that kind of like how you do it?
That's pretty much it for the core projects. Yeah, the ones that really need that full focus, brain power. Of course, things like social media or maintenance on a project that can be a little bit done, differently. But yeah, the sprints are like for those full thinking, creative things. I kind of need to get my brain ready, and that's how I do it. And it seems to be working out all right.
So what does a typical day then look like? Because you mentioned earlier how you schedule, like, let's say a fun activity, right? You're going to go to the beach. So does that mean then before and after you kind of like, you know what? There's nothing scheduled there. I'm just going to focus and do my sprints.
That's pretty much it. So what I'll do is it starts with a fun activity. So that's pretty much locked in the calendar there. And of course, if I have other calls and things, those would definitely be scheduled in within, kind of more of the working hours. But really, yeah, those sprints, a big project, and typically there's, one or two of those big rocks that I'm trying to move each day. And those will be, I'll kind of look at the schedule and be like, okay, I have these bumpers or these containers now I can work within. And, of course, my family time in the morning is not going to be sacrificed. So I'm not doing super early calls, and I honestly can't because typically I'm watching the baby, or, I'm getting my mind straight because that's a core component for my performance overall. So yeah, those one or two rocks will be scheduled in and time blocked more or less within those working hours that I know I'm free.
Want to know one of the ultimate life hacks? It's getting the useful knowledge and action items from a book in just 15 minutes, and you can do that with Blinkist. Successful people like CEOs, top managers, and other leaders are known for reading a lot of books. We've done multiple podcast episodes on the benefits of reading. Blinkist is made for busy people like you who want to get the main points of a book quickly so you can start using that information right away. Even better, with its audio feature, Blinkist makes it really easy to finish a book during your commutes, while walking around the house, on a lunch break, or while you exercise. I spend a lot of time traveling around the city using car sharing, and Blinkist is perfect for that. Hop in the car, chat with the driver for a bit, and then boom. By the time I get where I'm going, I've knocked off one or even two books. In less than 15 minutes, I have the key takeaways from a book, and I can incorporate the learnings into my life right away. A popular book on Blinkist right now is Ryan Holiday's Lives of the Stoics. It has a different spin on Stoicism by diving into the lives of the earliest leaders. In the productivity section, there's a great book by Ryder Carroll called The Bullet Journal Method. We've talked about the bullet journal before many times on the show, and you can get the key things you need to know in just 15 minutes. With Blinkist, you can get unlimited access to read or listen to a massive library of condensed nonfiction books. All the books you want, and all for one low price. Right now, for a limited time, Blinkist has a special offer just for our audience. Go to Blinkist.com/TPS and try free for 7 days and save 25% off your new subscription. That is Blinkist, spelled Blinkist, Blinkist.com/TPS to start your free 7-day trial. And you also save 25% off, but only when you sign up at Blinkist.com/TPS. So you mentioned your wife, and I think one of the most underrated and least discussed items in kind of like our industry, an item is not the right word, but just a discussion point, is the role of a partner, right? So you have your wife, you have a kid now too. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of curious, like, how does the family dynamic play into this? Like, how does your wife support you? Do you guys have I know a lot of couples or married people have like a daily schedule that they go over together. They have like a family meeting every single week and every Sunday where they go over stuff. Like every family does it a little differently. I'm kind of curious to hear how you do things.
Yeah, I think we're an interesting cookie because we're both entrepreneurs. We're both spontaneous. So we're fast actors. Like our buddy, Tim Francis, I first learned from him basically my qualities, of like, oh, I'm a quick start, like very high quick start. So that leads to, a lot of things, me getting into things without a lot of filters, unless I really build these nice filters in there. So we support each other that way because we know our personalities. And being entrepreneurs, we both have, this desire to just push the gas pedal like crazy. So we need to contain ourselves. So I support her in doing that, and she supports me. And then we have this baby. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic right now for us. So I definitely have more of the working time allotted to myself, primarily because she does have a tinier business. It's a lot less complicated. So she gets her work done primarily every other day. So she kind of takes, like today is a baby day for her, and she's looking forward to those now. It was really tough for her to get out of that, like go. She's very type A, like she wants to drive, and it's tough for her to just sit back knowing that there's stuff she could do in the business. So I support her actually in that and saying, hey, make time for yourself. And like she's at the pool right now with our baby and her sister. So it's like, that's fun. And she does that for me too. So if I need to work out or do the morning routine I have, and just even if it's an afternoon nap, she'll be like, yes, go take an hour, go take a half an hour, whatever you need to do to be present. So, I show up for my family with a clear mind. I'm not still thinking about these projects that I could be doing. Because that's the biggest challenge, I would say, is turning off the wheels, the business wheels, at least when you're sitting in front of your kid and your wife, and you're trying to make the most of that time. So I would say that's the biggest support, doing that.
One of the things I've discovered from working from home for so many years is when you have that cutoff time at the end of the day, it makes it much easier to disconnect and say, hey, it's 4 o'clock or it's 5 o'clock. It's time to stop working, and I will continue whatever I didn't finish, and I will work on that the next day. And when we don't have that, I don't know about you, but I can easily bring work back into my bedroom and check email at 10 o'clock and be like, oh my gosh, I have so much email I have to deal with, and never fall asleep that way.
Oh man, I'm with you on that. Yeah, and I know the best of the best. They probably wouldn't be quickest to admit it, but we all have those urges. It's just, I think you and I and a lot of these folks who've been practicing it, we're more aware of them. But 100%, yeah, it's you need to have these containers to turn it off, because you don't want to bring that stuff into sleep with you, and because that goes into your subconscious. Then you're not really allowing yourself to get creative. You're just kind of stuck in the motions almost. So I'm always looking to clear my mind, and that's why I like to go outside, to be honest. I like to separate from screens as much as possible. It's my business partner Matt loves doing, that's fine. He loves making music and all that stuff on computers, and I do as well, but I want to be outside. That's where I know things can open up. I think that's good for most people to kind of move their bodies and experience different locations a bit.
Now, one of the things you mentioned at the very beginning is that you love GTD, Getting Things Done by David Allen. And I know a lot of people who follow that methodology or have read the book find it really rigid sometimes. And you have the 5 steps, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And people oftentimes don't stick to a weekly review and so on. So what's your experience been like with just implementing GTD in your life?
It was tough, and it's still not perfect. I'm still work in progress. And honestly, it's probably a hybrid at this point with other things that I've kind of bolted on and taken away. But actually, it was a little embarrassing because we did interview David Allen on our podcast, and I admitted to him, I was like, I suck at this. I am not good. And he was like, it's okay. Just do the work. Like, you just got to do it. And there's no, other way really, but make it your own, is I think what he told me was essentially that. So, that I struggled with. I tried to use OmniFocus for a while. I think you even have a great article on Omni, because I learned it from one of your articles. It was a buddy of mine shared it, Dan Ryan. He was like, you got to get on Omni and use GTD and layer it up. And I believe, you had a whole scoop on it, which was brilliant. For some reason, I had a hard time making it a routine at first. So I had it all set up. And I think that's the thing with me, is I almost have to trick myself a little bit into my normal routine to get into like a GTD rigid type thing. But I eventually got there, and I ended up moving actually to Asana to kind of simplify things a bit more for myself. And I do the weekly review and all of that. And I have a repeat task for that. So as long as I have not too much on my plate, I think that's what I did. I was stacking too much in the inbox. I was dumping my brain, which is probably the best feeling part of it all. Is like, get it out of your brain, put it in a system somewhere. It was the systems after that of prioritizing and, putting all the things in their place. That's where I had to get a little softer with myself in terms of the systems to kind of grease the wheels a bit. So I would say a very rudimentary version of GTD, but it works for me. Yeah, it's interesting how it's so different for everyone else, though.
So speaking of prioritizing things, I know a lot of people struggle with that because everyone has kind of a different approach of how to prioritize something. So you mentioned your family, you have a business partner, you have your business, you have other things going on in life. You want to prioritize fun things as well. Like, how do you all prioritize that? Like, how do you tackle your day or your week and prioritize stuff then?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we have our core business and our podcast, but then we have these other businesses that we partnered up with as well. So I think there's a total of about 6 consistent projects that were kind of, we circle almost every day. And so we see these as, if we can be consistent with all of them, and some of them are weighted more, of course, our own podcast and brand and community is weighted the heaviest because that carries everything else. But these partner projects, I'm making sure that the ball's moving somewhat every single day, at least a little bit, that there's always momentum. I'm checking in with my partners and I'm making sure whatever, loose ends are there that I can just kind of hammer out in that day. I can, but there's always a rock. Like there's always these core components that we're working towards. And essentially, we kind of review every Monday, Matt and I do, of the entire week with all these projects, and we prioritize that way. And we maybe have 5 rocks for the entire week, 5 to 6, and we divvy those up between us. And of course, we have consistent other things happening too, minor things. But we identify those rocks and priorities. So that's a weekly check-in that's kind of based off of more of a quarterly snapshot. And this isn't like a rigid plan, but we have an idea of how everything's moving together and more or less some deadlines that are there for each project. And so that's how we do it. But it's consistency. It's not like one thing or the other. We're always kind of, everything's in motion together. It's almost like we have a bunch of clients for an agency, if that's a interesting analogy. You can kind of like check in with each of your clients just a little bit and see how they're doing. So everything's always moving.
So who do you feel most accountable to?
Ooh, that's a good question. It has to come back to myself because it wasn't like that for a while. But if I'm not accountable to myself, I hear it from myself. It's like in my head. Or if I told you I would do something and I didn't do exactly, like I know in myself, I'm going to be probably hardest on myself for that thing, whatever it is. But that will get me to show up better the next time. So yeah, that's definitely me.
I know with having a business partner, it's always a little easier to feel accountable and also being held accountable because the other person can go, well, Joe, I asked you to do this and you didn't do it. What happens? And if you know that person is going to come after you if you didn't do something, you go, oh, actually, you know what? I have to do something right now before we meet on Monday, for example. So I always find that very helpful when you have a partner. And even if you don't have a business partner, working with someone else and having someone else hold you accountable, I find that really huge. Powerful. It's one of the reasons why I have a personal trainer because yes, I could schedule my workouts on my calendar and such, but I know that I'm really smart in the sense that I can always out-talk myself or justify something. But if I have a personal trainer, then I will never do that.
True. And I have those as well. And those are very good points. Yeah. It's interesting when you get to your self layer. Yeah. It can go negative where you beat yourself up, or it could be constructive. And definitely talking yourself out of it is always part of it too. So it's a tricky balance. But yeah.
With so many things going on, Joe, how do you then balance work and life? That's always a tricky aspect I find when you're so busy.
Yeah. And I try to separate even devices out of, I'm talking devices like cell phone and things like that away from activities. If I'm with my baby, for instance, I'm not one to, and I'm not downing anyone that does, because my wife usually has her phone and taking pictures of the baby and all that stuff. And it's super cute. And I'm happy she does. She only has about 1 million of them already. She's only 9 months old. But it's, I try to keep that stuff away because I don't want to have the urge to jump into my email or social and all that stuff. So I think that's a big piece, is trying to separate the devices, because I know if I see a phone, sometimes that anchor is, oh, there's a text message there. Oh, and that text message is probably a business partner or someone else that is, bringing a business. I try to not bring that thinking around. So like you were saying about 4 or 5 o'clock, that's kind of my cue to, all right, let's shut it down. Let's walk away. Sometimes that's just a cue where I need to go outside. So, and I know if I go outside, I like to use my body. So I'm either carrying my baby around, I'm gardening, I'm physically doing something with my body. And it's weird. My brain, it almost like shuts down work mode. I have this weird compartmentalizing feature in my head, I guess, that it just kind of, I don't even go into it. But that's predicated on my prep work I did earlier in the day. Like I was saying, like the breathing, and if I can get my body moving, endorphins and all that stuff, then I know later in the day it's going to be a lot easier to just kind of turn that work stuff off when the family time comes on.
So I'm guessing then that you must love working out in the morning.
I prefer it. Yes. I don't always get to do that because sometimes family time will kind of take priority, but yeah, I 100%.
Yeah, I always go back and forth on that. I like the idea of doing it in the morning to kind of get myself ready, but I also know that I'm not as energetic in the afternoon, and that's where I like to do my workouts then, because then it kind of gives me a second wind of like, hey,
interesting. Yeah.
I just got my workout done and I got a lot of great work done in the morning. Yeah, if nothing happens after this, I still feel great about it, but I still have a lot of energy left. And oftentimes after my workout, to go, oh, you know what? Maybe if I wanted to do some extra work, I could.
I like that. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Actually, about 30 minutes before our interview, I was on this assault bike that I have in my garage because I have a full gym out there. And I did do about, it was like a 5-minute sprint, but it was enough to kind of just get the blood going again. Stephen Kotler, he's one we interviewed recently, that turned off the prefrontal cortex. So it just almost like kind of turned off the other stuff. So I figured, okay, I like to do that before interviews or before a bigger thing. So I'm not thinking of all the other stuff that's happening. It's kind of like a little trick too.
Yeah. So right before we started recording this, I did a 10-minute meditation. That's something I always like to do as well, just to kind of get my mind ready and just make sure I'm focused on one thing and not feeling frantic or feeling like I'm being pulled from all sorts of different directions. So I hear you on that. Yeah.
That's good.
Are there any other life hacks or productivity tips that you go, you know what? I think everyone should know this.
Yeah. Some stuff. So I guess it always kind of goes to physical stuff for me. Breathing exercises are great. So I love the practice of the XPT app has a lot of different cycles like box breathing, like 5 seconds inhale, 5 hold, 5 exhale, and then 5 hold again, and then repeat. That's kind of a basic way to just lower the nerves, take down the kind of the stress response a bit more. Sprinting, I just like, I have hills all around my property, so I'll literally just start sprinting some hills. If I need to just clear out some baggage that's going on, if I'm starting to feel a little stressed or whatever, little off, I know, and this is typically the hardest thing, is to kind of pull yourself out of a state where you don't feel great. When just literally going outside could probably fix that, like a couple minutes in the sun or sprints up a hill or that bike, all of those things are quick things to get the endorphins going, are always my hacks to, oh, that's my reset button, click, and it should take maybe 5 minutes and I'm there in the zone. There's oh my God, what are some other hacks? I love meditation. So mixed in with the breathing, I love to layer in things like, the Brain FM app, or even just some guided meditation of, gratefulness, mindfulness, following the breath. Exactly what kind of like what you were saying. It's another stress reliever. It just quiets things a bit. And I'm always trying to slow things down because of my fast-paced personality, and I'm trying to slow the world down because not only are my actions going by fast, it almost speeds up time in a way. So just as a selfish thing, I want to slow things down. So I'm like, anything I could do in that regard, or kind of like those are my defaults for my hacks, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful insight of how you know yourself, of how fast paced you are. You're a quick start. You can go 100 miles an hour. So the important part of managing yourself in that sense is actually slowing down. Yeah,
it's huge. I think we could all benefit from it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe, I really love this interview here today, and you shared so much, and I'm sure everyone loved it as well. If people want to find out more about you, your business, and what you're up to, where should they go?
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been fun. So Hustle and Flowchart is our business, primarily a business-focused podcast. And you can find that in Spotify or iTunes, Hustle and Flowchart, or at evergreenprofits.com. And there's a bunch of cool interviews. And, even if you're not an entrepreneur, that's okay. Or if there's all walks of life, mental game folks, and really interesting people that you'll love. So check me out there. And happy to, if you have any questions, there's ways to contact us there. And I'm always answering questions and all that stuff too.
Cool. So we'll make sure to link to that in the show notes as well. Thank you, Joe, for your time and insights there. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Do you wish there were more hours in a day? Are you behind on your to-do list? If you want to be more productive and get proven tools to help you save time, then you must check out our new productivity assessment. Within 2 minutes of taking this free assessment, the tool will generate a personal recommendation list of which apps, tools, and strategies that will work for you based on your life situation. To take the assessment, just go to theproductivityshow.com/quiz. Again, that URL is theproductivityshow.com/quiz. Take their free assessment today and you'll be on your way to becoming superhuman productive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Productive Monday.